Is any other member seeking the call?
Mr Deputy President.
Not about surfing, I take it.
Not this time.
The Honourable Taylor Martin.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I rise to speak on the motion moved by the Honourable Penny Sharp. There is one issue that this motion fails to articulate, and that is what is the cost to the taxpayers of New South Wales that the Labor Party is willing to accept? How many millions or billions of extra dollars would the Labor Party spend just to temporarily build something in a different location? What is the cost that they are willing to accept? Is it 100 million? Is it 500 million? Is it $1 billion? Who knows? Is it more? Unless those opposite are willing to articulate how many millions or billions of dollars extra that they are willing to burden the New South Wales taxpayer with, this motion is not worth the paper it's printed on. Further, Mr Deputy President, if they are willing to accept this additional cost on behalf of the taxpayer, they must tell us where that money will come from. This week, the master plan for the $780 million expansion of John Hunter Hospital and John Hunter Children's Hospital was unveiled. The expansion will provide additional capacity to meet the growing demand of the Hunter region. The master plan includes a new emergency department and improvements to critical care, increased interventional and imaging services, expanded inpatient units and enhanced ambulatory care services. If the Labor Party had their way, this project may be at risk, simply to pay for their trains. The New South Wales Government is also duplicating the Central Coast Highway between Womberal and Baddo Bay. There's a major road on the Central Coast that 26,000 motorists use each day. It'll cost over $387 million. This is an upgrade that the opposition has actively opposed. This motion, I think, provides the reason why they are opposed to it, because they need the money. Perhaps we've received other hints how those opposite would have paid for the additional costs that Labor would burden the taxpayer with. They would have cancelled the Sydney Metro South West. They would have cancelled the Northern Beaches Link. They would have cancelled the F6 extension. There is no
order. Well, I'll just deal with two things. First off, I'll deal with Mr Shoebridge's point of order. Thank you.
It's purely on relevance,
I know what it
President.
is. I was looking for it myself.
And I've read the motion. I actually thought it was going somewhere potentially to be relevant, and having given 2 minutes of if you like, allowing 2 minutes to see if it was going somewhere relevant. It's not relevant to the motion, and I'd ask you to draw the member to account.
entirely.
Point of order, Mr President.
No.
It's a separate point of order.
Well, let me deal with my first point of order. Can I say to the member, I reached for the terms of the motion myself because I was becoming a little concerned. Could I say that my concern has not reached a frenzy, but I would encourage you to come back to the topic. Now I'll deal with the next matter.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. Mr Deputy President, whilst Mr David Shoebridge was taking his point of order, the honourable member remained on his feet, which is I noticed a developing propensity for this to occur, that when points of order are being taken, people aren't resuming their seats, and I would ask that you remind the honourable member of the protocols of the House.
Not me, Nick. I think we'll duly note that. Could I also take my own point of order at this stage? Could I remind the Honourable Mick Veitch and the Honourable Penny Sharp that interjections are disorderly? The Honourable Mick Veitch is on one call to order and is fast approaching his second. The Honourable Penny Sharp hasn't hit the score sheet yet, but is shortly to get there. So, the Honourable Taylor Martin.
You want to go home?
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. The fact is that the motion specifically relates to government-funded train services. I'm listing a list of infrastructure projects that take up quite a number of...
You're carefully with the rules.
Order, Mr. Deputy.
I'm not.
You are. Look, that was something that you could have put on the when we were having the discussion on the point of order. And look, I've got a little bit of sympathy for you. But now that you're on your feet, how about you address the terms of the notice of motion in a general way and we'll all be happy.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. Well, the fact of the matter is, Mr Deputy President, there is nothing that the Labor Party loves more than putting infrastructure projects at risk. I take that back. They may like putting coal jobs, mining jobs at risk even more. But look, that's probably another matter for another day. Mr Deputy President, last week the ABS released employment statistics and they show that New South Wales remains the job capital of Australia. They showed that New South Wales has the lowest unemployment rate of any state at just 4.4%. New South Wales added 12,963 jobs in July, with a participation rate of 65.9% and an unemployment rate falling by 0.2%. New South Wales remains well below the national unemployment rate of 5.2% and is lower than Victoria. Also lower than Queensland and also lower than South Australia. The current policy settings are obviously working. The New South Wales Government is investing $2.4 billion for the delivery of a new fleet of state-of-the-art trains, providing 554 new carriages to improve passenger services on the intercity rail network. The carriages will begin to be delivered in this budget this year and will be rolled out first to the Central Coast and Newcastle rail line. The new double-deck carriages will have USB charging, comfortable 2x2 seats, luggage storage and accessible toilets. It is a matter of record that the winning contractor was some $575 million cheaper than the next higher bidder. $575 million. I asked the Labor Party what they would have done if presented with those two competing bids, hence why I listed earlier in this speech a number of infrastructure projects that money may have to come from. Perhaps they may have purchased less carriages, and instead of having 8 carriages per train, they might only have 7. What would those commuters who would have been crammed onto those trains have thought of that? Perhaps they would have raised the train fares. This government is cutting train fares. Already we have delivered on our commitment to cut the Opal cap. If the Labor Party were in power, maybe they'd have to go up. It is important to note where the cost is right and the product is superior, the New South Wales Government will use local suppliers. Last month I got the opportunity to visit Varley Group at Tomago with David Elliott, the Minister for Emergency Services, up in the Hunter. Varley was established in 1886 and is one of Australia's oldest and most advanced engineering and manufacturing companies, employing around 600 people. At its manufacturing facility in Tomago, more than 150 people kit out emergency services vehicles that are used by New South Wales Fire and Rescue, the New South Wales RFS and New South Wales Ambulance. The work that firefighters and paramedics do is so important that they need to have access to the highest quality equipment and infrastructure that can be made available to them. The Varley Group has been providing specialised emergency equipment to New South Wales since 1999, and since then they have grown to be Australia's largest manufacturer of fire appliances and ambulances. The Varley Group is investing in the next generation of technology in the Hunter for emergency services vehicles that will see a lot more automation and a lot more computer control. I note that the motion fails to mention that the New South Wales Government also purchases buses in Australia when the product is and cost is right. In June, Custom Buses in St Mary's delivered its 100th bus since it was revived by the new owners. 89 of those buses have been delivered to bus and coach operators throughout New South Wales, and over the last 18 months the company has grown from just 6 employees to 175. And they are designing the new hybrid and electric buses, which will no doubt see in New South Wales in due course, Mr Deputy President. Mr Deputy President, in the Honourable Penny Sharp's contribution earlier here today, the member took my interjection regarding the additional trucks that would occupy the roads in Newcastle.
Penny Sharp to order for the first time.
That would occupy the roads throughout Newcastle to service a container terminal between 2,700 and 4,000 truck movements would be seen, heard and felt in the local area. That's an extra B double every 30 seconds right past Mayfield East Public and the Hunter Christian School, not to mention residents and homes. All that just for more maritime union workers. Just ask Jodie. She knows all about this. So, Mr Deputy President.
Mr David Shoebridge on a point of order.
The member knows that if he's referring to a member of the other place, he has to use the appropriate title.
Why is the Leader of the Greens?
Well, I could make some assumptions, but I don't know if he was referring to a member of the other place, so we can go on. Well, if you've got a problem, I can call you to order.
Mr Deputy President, if it pleases the House, the clarification was it was about the member for Strathfield.
Oh.
Point of order. Point of order.
If that is a frivolous point of order, you'll be called to order.
Mr. Deputy President, I made my point of order appropriately. We have these protocols in place for a good reason. My point of order was not frivolous. It was clear to me that he was referring to the Leader of the Opposition. Now, clear that he is, and the point was well made,
You're wasting
and my point here was not flippant.
I've heard enough. The member may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President, and I will wrap up by saying I oppose this motion. The New South Wales Government is focused on a strong economy with quality jobs, record investment in the services that matter to citizens of New South Wales, and it has to be said, the largest construction program in our state's history. This would all be at risk if the Labor Party were on the Treasury benches. Thank you, Mr President.
Hear, hear.